He warned us in 1990. He warned us again in 2008. Both times, the world ignored him. Both times, he was right. Fred Harrison, the economist who foresaw the last two global recessions, is sounding the alarm once more. And this time, he says the collapse has a date. The warning signs are already flashing. And by 2026, the global economy could be facing its most dangerous breakdown in modern history. Fred Harrison is an 80-year-old British economist best known for his theory of the 18-year property cycle, a repeating boom and bust rhythm in housing markets that has shaped economies for centuries. It's a cycle so consistent that Harrison predicted both the 1990 crash and the 2008 global financial crisis years before they happened. Now he believes we've entered the final stage of the same cycle. A stage, he says, will peak in 2025 and collapse fully in 2026. Why is this one different? Because this time, it's not the banks that are too big to fail. It's the governments. Harrison's theory is blunt. 18 years of growth, fueled by speculation in land and housing. A peak when cheap credit and political short-termism inflate the bubble. A crash, followed by deep recession. The only historical interruptions? World wars. COVID didn't break the cycle. It accelerated it. Housing price growth that should have peaked in 2025 to 2026 was pulled forward during the pandemic. We hit those highs early, but Harrison insists the timetable hasn't changed. We are locked into peak behavior, he says, and it can only end one way. The correction is already underway in the U.S. housing market. Europe and Asia are straining to hold things together. Harrison's timeline? The peak in 2025, followed by the full-scale collapse in 2026. The crash of 2008 was catastrophic, but governments had tools. Banks were bailed out. Central banks printed money. Stimulus was poured into the system. This time is different. In 2008, it was banks too big to fail. In 2026, it's governments drowning in sovereign debt. And no one can bail out governments whose debts exceed the size of their entire economies. As Harrison puts it, last time we saved the banks. This time, it's the governments that are too big to fail. And no one's coming to save them. The result? Sovereign defaults, collapsing currencies, political breakdown, and unrest spreading across entire regions. Harrison warns the economic crash of 2026 won't arrive in isolation. It will collide with other crises already destabilizing the world: war, Ukraine, Israel, and rising tensions in Asia. Migration, surging flows from the global south into Europe. Climate shocks, food and energy insecurity. Political paralysis, leaders unable or unwilling to act. Each of these is dangerous alone. Together, they create what Harrison calls a convergence catastrophe. 4 existential threats striking at once, just as the economic cycle collapses in 2026. If all 4 converge, he warns, there is nowhere to hide. Every country is integrated into this one same problem. History shows how politicians react when economies collapse. They reach for war and repression. Harrison is blunt. Politicians want power, but they don't want to solve problems. And when they fail to solve them, they reach for war. Trump, he warns, could escalate conflicts in Latin America or Asia. Putin, bogged down in Ukraine, might lash out further into Europe. And other leaders could follow suit, using military distractions to cover economic failure. Meanwhile, repression at home is already visible. Protesters face harsher penalties. Speech is criminalized. Dissent is silenced. To Harrison, this is not coincidence. It's the symptom of a political class that has run out of answers. For decades, Harrison has offered an alternative: tax reform based on economic rents. Shift the burden away from wages and productivity and onto the unearned wealth of land and resource monopolies. He argues this would end speculative bubbles, stabilize economies, and reduce inequality. But his frustration is obvious. The politicians have no imagination. The think tanks have no answers. The solutions exist, but nobody listens. Instead, society stays locked in a cycle of rent-seeking, profits extracted from housing, finance, and tech, until the system collapses. And in Harrison's view, that collapse is scheduled for 2026. But Harrison's darkest warning isn't just about debt or housing. It's about artificial intelligence. He insists AI is not artificial at all. It's autonomous intelligence, absorbing human behavior without conscience or morality. We are imbuing machines with our own destructive instincts, he says. They will seek rents just as we do. And in his view, AI will become the ultimate rent seeker, capturing energy, data, and resources for itself, treating humans as inefficiencies, expanding into a self-sustaining metaverse while human relevance shrinks. The fewer people there are, the better, Harrison warns, and ultimately, we will have created the end of humanity in our own image. Fred Harrison has been dismissed before, but his predictions in 1990 and 2008 proved correct. Now he warns of something far larger: a property cycle peaking in 2025, a sovereign debt crisis no one can bail out, 4 global crises converging at once, political paralysis turning into war and repression, and artificial intelligence rising as the final rent seeker. The difference this time is clear. The weak link is governments themselves. And by 2026, Harrison says, the global collapse will begin. If he's right, the crash of 2026 won't just be another recession. It will be the end of an era and the beginning of something far more dangerous.